So let's take a look at the production and operations. And what we want to talk about are the wastes. So what type of wastes are we looking at specifically? We're looking at the waste of defects, waste of motion, waste of waiting, and waste of inventory. So let's start off with the waste of defects. So a defect is a product that is declared unfit for use. And what we see a lot of are scraps that are produced by poorly maintained templates. And I'll give you an example. We deal with thermal acoustic insulation. Now, yes, we can provide the raw material, but where we kind of come in is we're able to cut that product out for you using our water jet cutting machine. Customers, however, do offer or do want to have just the raw material, which comes in rolls or comes in sheets. And what they do is they'll take the majority will take their cardboard template, put it on top of the sheet, and with an X-Acto knife, we'll go ahead and cut around that template. Now, a lot of companies have if it's not broken, why do we fix it? Which is fine, but let's take a look at that example. You're increasing the risk of injury by someone using an X-Acto knife to go around and cut. You're also, what's happening, what we see a lot of, and where the scrap comes in, is as you're cutting around a cardboard template, the X-Acto knife is slowly kind of cutting and reducing the size of that template, because whether you like it or not, the X-Acto knife is cutting even as small or as thin as a 1/32 inch or a 2 millimeter in terms of thickness to go around. You are reducing the size of that. And what happens over time is that template, as you're cutting parts, it is too small to fit onto your application, creating scrap. So again, looking at, it's a defect at the end of the day, it's a scrap that is produced. You cannot use, it's unfit for use. So another thing that we see as well, what we've seen especially in the past 6 months and where we looked at helping customers, is parts that are assembled or that are installed correctly, which leads to parts breaking and using another part in stock. And it's normal. Installer's installing a gasket, for example, and pulls on the corner breaks because he's pulling on it wrong or he's installing it wrong, and we'll just go into the stock, pick up another gasket and put it on. So what happens over there? Supply chain has to reorder at a lower quantity because they're missing maybe 3 or 4 to finish their builds. What happens there? The price on that to replace those broken parts goes right up. Instead, what we did is we worked with customers to make them understand or train their staff online. Now, obviously with the challenges of COVID-19, how were we able to do that? We were able to make custom-made videos to show them exactly how to install their gasket on their assemblies. Another example that we did as well is that we were able to use part marking, and with the help of a plant manager or the supervisor in that section, we were able to mark the gaskets exactly how it should be installed in the corners with the help of a video on how to install the parts with an adhesive or with a bulb trim seal that we're able to install on. Again, it's not just about the product, it's where does the product go and how can we help to reduce the inefficiencies that are out there and increase obviously your efficiencies. That's the job of a trusted advisor. Waste of motion. So this one's an interesting one. It's an unnecessary movement by people. And maybe, well, Rob, how can my supplier help me on the movement of my people on the floor? Well, pickers move raw material from different points of the warehouse to the production line. Okay, and the example that I can give you here, what we've done, especially in the last 6 months, again, is if their production output has increased, well, or for example, when COVID hit, well, not many people were allowed in the warehouse. We went down to skeleton staff to make sure that there was the social distancing going on the floor. So how can I make sure that the people that I have on the floor are working on either building products instead of wasting time picking? So I'll give you an example. We have a customer that builds a cab, and we do the acoustic insulation as well as the gaskets and other molded parts in there as well. Now, these parts are installed all in the same place on the production line. So what we did with the help of the operations manager, we were able to understand their need. And what we did is we started kitting these parts. So imagine this kit consisted of 30 insulation parts. In the past, the way we were shipping was each part was being shipped in their separate box. Once it arrived at the customers, it got unloaded off the truck. It took 30 bin spots on the racking, And a picker would go around on a daily basis to go and pick all these different installations and bring them to the production line floor. Instead, by putting everything in a kit, and not only that, we were able also to understand and ask, is there a specific order that these installation parts are installed? And there was. So what we ensured is that not only did we reduce the amount of bin spots on the customer's plant, we were also able to reduce the picker's movement of going around picking these 30 parts, and only to go into one bin spot to pick up whatever they needed for the day. Also, we were able to help improve the installation time because there was no need to stand around and look at which order it goes. I've walked plants where I've seen customers bring these installation parts they literally lie it down on the floor and have their plans in front of them, and they're kind of, okay, this is the first one that has to go, that's the second one, and there's like 3 or 4 of them trying to figure all this out. By putting them in the right order, there's no guesswork over there. It's done automatically for them. The installers are able to open the box and start right away, reducing their movement, reducing their waste basically on that. Very important. Okay, and what a lot of people don't realize is that by having excess movement, it increases your fatigue. And by increasing your fatigue, well, you increase the risk of human error. Again, we try to reduce as much inefficiencies as possible. Waste of waiting. So waiting for material delivery production lines to shut down. Like, again, what's going on over there, basically what comes out to are stockouts, okay? The stockouts, not necessarily on the production side, but it's mostly on the operation side. Again, by maybe not having a clear vision or clarity, what happens is maybe you get an increase in a production on a certain part. You need more. The communication doesn't really go down smooth. What happens is that the supplier doesn't have enough to give. You end up with a stockout. What happens over there is that you have parts or assemblies that are waiting in queues with no material to finish them. So basically, you're paying workers just to stand around. And what happens are that if you're going to deliver your parts late, or you're going to deliver your products late, well, you're going to have a decrease in your cash flow. And what do I mean by that, and why? If you ship your parts late, well, you're going to collect late. It's a vicious circle. So instead of shipping at the beginning of June, for example, you might only ship in mid-June. You can only bill 15 days after that. Instead of billing in the 1st of July, you're only billing in the mid-July. But you've paid for all your raw material already. So your cash flow now gets impacted. Very important. Last one is waste of inventory. So waste of inventory and excess of material. And you can see this in 3 ways. So you see it in raw materials. So where are you procuring your raw materials? Is it overseas? Is the lead time too long that you have to overcompensate by ordering more and you're stuck with this raw material? You'll see it in work in process materials. These are materials that have entered into the transformation stage, are left in limbo because they're missing either certain elements to continue going in the next part of the production line. Or what happens is you decide to increase your finished goods products. You might need 20, let's make 30 of them. But what happens if there's a revision on that and you're stuck with that extra 10 and you're tying up your money in that extra 10? Okay. Now, all this, what we spoke about today, so all the wastes, the trends that we see in the supply chain, it all comes down to true costs. And a lot of this is not taken into consideration when you're trying to make a partnership with a vendor. And it's embedded in our heads that we have to look for the lowest costs. And I know there's some companies out there and some of you out there that don't look at it that way, which is great. You look at the overall package. But what I wanted to really stress today was true costs. Everything that we spoke about today impacts, but the impact is not necessarily visible. These are all hidden costs, but they're part of true costs. A part might not necessarily be worth $10, $20, $30. It might be worth more because the way it's being packaged, the way it's being offered by the vendor might not be offered in an efficient way. And before we go, I want to just launch another poll before we're done. Just a especially recently what's been going on, I want to maybe share this information. Let's just launch the last poll, which it's going off right now. The cost to ship a container from Asia was $1,200 back in 2019 and 2020. What are the costs projected to be in 2021? Let's see what people answer. We're at 50%. We're at 50%. We reached 75%. I'll close it off in about 10 seconds. Make sure anyone else wants to vote. And we'll close off in 5 seconds. And there we go. Let's share the results. So, the cost to ship a container from Asia was $1,200. What are the costs projected to be in 2021? The majority have chosen $2,500. The actual answer is D, it's $6,000. $6,000 to ship a container to come in. So again, if you look at your supply chain partner or yourself, are you purchasing one part? Are you purchasing multiple parts? Is your supply chain partner purchasing multiple parts overseas? And this is, I use Asia as an example, but don't forget there's companies that we do business with within Europe that we ship in as well. Again, the costs have gone up. It's gone up everywhere. So if you have to choose a supply chain partner that has multiple containers coming in with multiple parts, it could definitely yield a lower cost on a in terms of the landed in costs coming in because it's being spread on multiple items. Again, part of the true cost that I wanted to stress again today.